And just remember, stay in frame because I'm like here. So, okay.
I see right here.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, ready? Yeah. All right. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. Today with me, I have a regular student here and a pretty good friend of mine. I have Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
So, don't let this guy fool you. I mean, anytime that he's at one of our classes and he does like the student intro or whatever, he says he's trash. He's really not, except for today. What the fuck was today about? We were both doing so bad. Like, it was raining hard as shit, and the guns were just like buttery, slick, like
just baby oil.
Oh,
It was fun. You should do it.
It was fucking awful. So, here's the thing. We're going to talk to you guys about short-barreled rifles today. Yay. They're a point of contention between a lot of different people, but there's a lot of guys that are interested in it now, especially with like the SIG braces and stuff like that. Because, okay, they're pistols, yay, but they still operate in the same manner for the most part. So, we're going to talk about like the tax stamp inclusion on this, and we're going to go like through what our thoughts are for a lot of these things. Because a lot of the baby guns look really ninja-fied and cool and stuff like that, and there are real positives to it, I believe anyway, and there are also some downsides.
Yes.
So before you guys, we have a trio of SBRs and stuff. I've got the one that you guys have seen a million times, and he's got short-barreled 30 caliber AK and an Anderson.
This one?
Yeah.
This one is an Arrow with the PDQ bolt release.
Okay.
On the right side.
Oh yeah, the thing that requires milling and stuff.
Yes, normally, but I got it from them as a package deal.
Okay. Okay.
So they did all the work, but it was a little bit more expensive.
So we have a few guns out here for that, and after we talk about stuff like cost, we're going to go into effectiveness issues, employment issues, and little quirky things that a lot of guns in this category have, especially from what we've noticed as of late. I mean, because we've been shooting together for what, like a year plus?
As of right now, yeah, almost a year and a half-ish.
Yeah,
off and on.
It's kind of off and on. So here we go. We're going to dive into cost and stuff like that first, and the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to talk about what they were all together, and for whatever that is, add $200 for a tax stamp.
Right off the bat.
Yeah. So first we're going to go into mine. With all this stuff included, there's an Anderson lower on this guy and stuff like that, and you also have like a bunch of Daniel Defense parts and the new N4 light that's up here, a set of dependable flip-ups and all that, a police trade-in Comp M2, which is still fantastic optics, that came with a LaRue mount and stuff like that, and a little bit of alterations to like the furniture and ambi, and no, actually no, there are no ambi controls on this other than the charging handle. But here's the thing, with all this stuff included, we're looking at like a $1,400 piece, right? So that's mine individually. You can go through yours.
I just built this recently. I put my tax stamp in right when all the trust laws changed regarding NFA items. So I just threw it in like I might as well get it over with. And I sat on it for a long time before I had maybe the time or funds to build it. And this is what I come up with. This is the Aero Precision lower with the PDQ MB bolt release. I wanted to build something small and light as I could, so I went with polymer, and it's no frills. It's exactly what I need. Light's mandatory, I think, especially for something this small. So I got about 150 in the lower, 20. This is a Sequence Precision upper, their complete upper, 10.5. That was like $330 on like super sale. I had to jump on it. This is their flash hider it came with. It works, kinda. I'm gonna have to change that. I don't like any flash. Yeah, SBR and flash. Yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, for sure, it's one of those things that we're definitely gonna revisit too, because
of course
that's a thing.
Yes.
Like that's a thing.
That's a thing. We'll talk about that in a second. So Magpul polymer flip ups, a cheaper red dot. This is the primary arms. They're like $90-ish one.
I hate that thing.
I do, but I'm running out of money real fast.
Oh no, I get it for sure.
Light. This is the Streamlight Protect 1 rifle kit with an amazing mount. Actually, this is pretty cool. We should do a review on it sometime. This is the Cloud defensive mount for it. I don't know if you can really see it. We can't really get into it, but
It's a bolt-in mount that
Yeah.
you can just slide a pad into.
Yep.
So
But I got about 12, almost 13 kind of ish into this, and the $200 tax stamp. So
yeah, exactly.
$1,500 to have this, and it is what it is.
And that is built off of a 92 series.
Yes, this is the PAP M92 pistol. I got the pistol for $450 way before everybody started falling in love with them or whatever. Way before all this happened. Now I don't know what they go for.
I don't really either, actually.
Yeah, I think 550, 600.
Okay.
Ish. I've actually configured this multiple different ways, so I've got a lot of costs in this.
Yeah.
Based on gear changes, and it's ever evolving like everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this thing. I saw this thing evolve from like the real early days of the thing, and
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you actually have a lot of money soaked into this guy, but
Yeah.
I mean, I like this configuration currently because it lightens it up as much as it can.
But it's also still very heavy.
Yeah, it's stout. Like it's heavier than full length rifles.
Yes.
So
So $450-ish for the gun. This is the SLR stock for it. They just came out with recently. I got it the day they ordered it. I haven't really got to play with it that much. Stormworks folding adapter. That's cool. Manticore arms, handguard. They don't use the Magpul, what is that mounting system called?
M-lock.
Yeah, they don't. It's similar, but not. So I had to modify the hell out of it, and it's not okay. So one thing I have to change again. Surefire light. You gotta have a light. Just gotta have a light. I got lucky enough to get this Scout for $7. It never happened again. It wasn't a special deal or nothing. The guy just didn't know what it was, and I got it. The one thing I'll say about this, and that pretty much wraps this up, this is the Manticore Arms flash hider. It is mandatory. This thing is 4-foot fireballs. I mean, ran this in your AK class. I ran the hell out of it.
Yeah, it was kind of cool too because I was back with a bunch of people that were at the reloading table and stuff, and we had everybody else. Like I had my other two instructors that were helping out at the time. They were up on the line with the guys that were currently shooting, and I was further back. And it was dark at this point, and like when he would shoot, you could tell because he was taking like little snapshots of everybody on the line. You could see him really well. So
yeah. So imagine what that did for me. I lost my night vision. Anytime I had to night shoot with this thing, I just sat out.
I mean, and that's the thing too, is that like to a point. I mean, even in like ARs and stuff, okay, like dual port brakes and stuff like that. Yeah, they're real bright, but because of like the penetration from the light that you have, and because it fans them out. You can still see over the top of it, and it worked just fine. But everything that he used except this was a 4-foot, like, circular fireball right in front of him. I shot the thing, too, and I was just like, nah.
Yeah, so...
It was like a half-second, like, time per shot because it was ridiculous to try and fight through.
Yeah.
So, and that's just the nature of, like, 30 caliber AKs for the most part when you shorten them up.
Yep.
But... So, what do you have as far as overall cost for this build?
We said about a little over $1,000 because I got the light for, we'll just say, nothing. If you were to buy this or a decent light, you're looking at $100 for a stream light or whatever for a Surefire.
And if it's like a Surefire Scout or something like that, it's like a $200-$300 buy depending on what it is.
So this would be valued around $1,200, and I bought all these parts a long time ago, except for the brand new recent ones that come out. And then a $200 tax stamp. So what you see is, no matter what, if you go down the realm of SBRs, whatever it may be, there's $200 added to it before you can start.
Yeah.
And that's actually a big deal because these days, and if you have time to wait and shop around on the internet, $200 can get you half of a rifle.
Damn near.
If you think about that. So you really have to think, is this worth it to me for my application?
I mean, a lower with a tube and trigger components and all this stuff on an AR is $150.
Easy.
You know, and then the rest of the 200 goes into whatever stock you buy, depending.
Yeah, and the little knickknacks that you decide that you want to try out or you love or whatever.
And what that tends to do is that it tends to make people skimp on like important shit.
Very important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes straight into what you said too. You wanted to use your optics and stuff like that, but you ended up using optics that we both hate.
Yes.
You know,
just so I can have decent parts.
Yep.
Reliable parts that I want to either
and then
try out for reviews or whatever. Or they're known good parts.
Yeah, and then eventually, you know, slap it on like an MRO or something, which you have on the 74.
74, yeah.
That I sold to you.
Yep.
So, it's a consideration to make for sure, because especially now, like those $200 affect all kinds of stuff. I mean, a hollow sun will get the job done for the most part.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, it's yet to see all the way, because I have to throw one onto my Chinese Mac 90, and I'm gonna run the balls out of that thing and see if it lives. Because I've seen a lot of budget-minded optics just get killed on Ultimax.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends really on who's going where with it. But it is a consideration to make, especially since, I mean, you guys saw some of this in like the shoot footage and stuff, and this is a 20-inch rifle, minus the glass and the mount, which was $1,000. This was a $660 setup. You know, seriously, it was a $660 setup, and you can cut the price of whatever it is that you want as far as an optic in half from what I have, if you go with like a dot or something. But with a Trijicon AccuPower and an American Defense mount, you're looking at $1,000 for just that, you know. So taking this off, the $200 affects all of this.
All of it, definitely.
Right? And you guys know that this is on like a daily deals from Palmetto State Armory and stuff. So like the complete upper receiver, the trigger components and the tube were $400. You know, and you can cut that in half, obviously. And this didn't require the extra $200.
And the time.
Yeah.
We haven't even spoken of the time yet.
So let's do that.
Okay, so with these two and the couple other that I have, I actually got 5 total. Just a thing. I am a big fan of older military-style weapons. The PPS-43C happens to be one of my favorite weapons of all time. Not just because it's cool, but it's cool.
His is pretty.
So it is. I fell in love with it off of Call of Duty #2. Yeah, whatever.
We play video games. Get
play
over
video
it.
games, yeah. And when I found later on in my adult life, when I had money and time, it was here in the States as a pistol, and I just had to have it. We all have that moment. So I got it, and SBR went the first time I ever went through that whole NFA process, and what a nightmare it is. And my stamp came back. My first one came back in 35 days, and that was with the trust. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 7.62 times 25, which is now extinct unless you want to pay a lot for it. So we'll just say that gun is more because I wanted it. I don't really actually get to shoot it often.
Mm-hmm.
Then it just so happens they came out with it in a 9mm configuration. Well, who doesn't shoot 9mm? Glock 19 guy here. So of course I had to bite the bullet, all pun intended, and buy another one and get that NFA process going again. That took 33 days. Then I decided I wanted a Glock SBR, whatever. I still haven't finished it because it was one of those, let's do it because it's cool. About 31 or 35 days. Then I think it was 2014, 15, the NFA laws changed when it came to trust. Everybody panicked and I had to have this, That's the only reason these two are here. I thought to myself, okay, I've never really considered a AK or an AR SBR because at the time it didn't have any practicality for me as a shooter. I wasn't there yet.
Yep.
But it came to, and we all do this, I might not be able to get it tomorrow thing. Just go ahead and bite the bullet again and put the paperwork in. I can sit on it the rest of my life. Didn't really care. I didn't really have a plan. I had the M92 as a pistol because it's a pistol. I can legally have it in my possession walking in the streets. Not that I would, but in the car, you can't get in trouble depending on your state. We won't even get into that stuff.
Nope.
But what you see is my progression through all this is I've got 5 NFA stamps. That's $1,000. So I could pretty much have any one of these guns almost on the table rather than having this a shorter version. That's huge. That's huge. Not everybody can do that, and some people can.
$1,000 is a lot of bullets. It's entire rifles at this point.
That's a class or two, depending on where you go. I mean,
for me, it's 5.
Right. I mean, serious training. So there's a big deal with that, and let's talk about the legalities of what you can and cannot do with these NFA items.
I mean, because look, I put a trust on mine too, and it came back fairly quick. But if you go through the traditional route, holy crap,
especially now,
ridiculous. Like, on the short end, I've heard something like 4 months. On the long end, I've heard over a year.
Yeah, I didn't even get to that. I'm sorry.
And it usually sits somewhere in the middle between like 6 and 8. So realistically speaking, it's one of the bloopers. So realistically speaking, it's one of those deals where it's just like, I mean, dude, over time it takes like, on the low end I've heard like 4 months. On the long end I've heard like a year.
Yes.
You know, and it usually nestles somewhere in the middle between like 6 and 8 months. And I've heard horror stories about it and stuff like that. And it really does depend on who's doing all the paperwork and all that crap at the time.
Yes.
But I mean, you said that you had a story about all that, right?
Which part?
Just the time.
Oh yeah. Well, sorry, I started to mention that my first 3 were a little over a month, and then the sudden inflow of new NFA requests and whatnot started to happen, and I put these in regards to that, and it started to take, with a truss, before the cutoff date. This one took 8 months for the AK SBR, and then this one was about 10-ish. Honestly, I don't remember exactly because I put them in and it wasn't that big of a deal, and I sat on them for a long time so I could get the funds. And you know, at this time, it took so long that I was already on to the next thing, and that was my training phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really concerned about building them, rather than just moving forwards as a person in this.
Yeah, and I mean, the difference between the PAP and the AR time frame specifically is just
Yeah.
a little ridiculous.
And that was 2 weeks difference.
Yeah, I mean, and the trust could speed things up, but
It was through a trust.
yeah.
So if you were individual, oh man.
But
Yeah. Now I'm not really sure about the new laws. I don't plan on anymore. I know fingerprints, LEO, the 3x5, or the little picture that you have to do now.
Mhm.
It's pretty intense.
pain in the ass.
Yes. There's no difference between these two when it comes to so-called being dangerous. They're the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, as far as just like cost and time and stuff, these are things that we have to factor into place and stuff like that. And you know, a lot of times, gun guys just start collecting shit.
yes.
You know, I mean, I have like now 2 diaper boxes full of just shit.
Yeah.
Like just stuff.
Yep.
That I'll root through every once in a while and be like, holy crap, I've needed this forever ago.
Yep.
Why the fuck did I buy 2 more?
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like that.
Or almost enough parts to build a whole nother rifle with just a few more extra parts.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous at certain points, and just over time you start to realize, dude, how much money did I just waste?
Yeah.
That I just waste
Yeah.
experimenting and figuring it out and stuff. And great, it helps your knowledge base and stuff, but at the same time, it's like, Jesus.
Yeah, money is money.
Yeah. So, okay, now that we've covered that though, let's say we have the guns ready, right? And we're not even talking about paperwork or legality or anything like that because it varies. And there are certain things that I just don't feel like getting into because
It changes on the daily sometimes.
I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have the rifles now. They're in our possession and we're using them. Typically, the usage for like a short-barreled rifle is a better home defense rifle, right? Now, I'm going to start this by saying that there is absolutely no problem whatsoever with like a 14.5 or a 16-inch barreled rifle being your home defense gun. Because this is a 12.5, okay? This is a 12.5-inch barrel. His AR is a 10.5, right? So 4 to 6 inches. If you have serious problems navigating like corners and stuff like that, that's your fault,
right.
not the rifle's,
Yep.
really. It's one of those things that you should be trained for, or that you should have trained into figuring out, rather.
Yes.
There's like a million places to go handle that. But let's talk about that, and let's talk about a couple of considerations, right? On the AR side of the house, because I want to talk about flash and concussion first.
Okay, cool.
On the AR side of the house, we're fortunate enough to where, yeah, they are definitely loud. They are definitely loud,
Yes.
but so are all rifles inside of a house, really. And the flash is obnoxious for sure, but on the AR side of the house, it just doesn't seem like it's a whole lot. Even with brakes and stuff, if you got a good light,
Yeah.
okay, not a freaking Walmart light that you bolted into the rings on your mount, but if you got a good light, if you've got a brake or something on it, I mean, I've shot in the dark with, you know, the same type of guns. I mean, you were there when we were shooting. Oh God, it was cold that night too. And I brought out the RWMD rifle with that Surefire dual port, and I'm
Yeah.
still whatever, man.
Yeah.
And there were times that we were dealing with certain things where the light pollution just kind of negated the use of the light.
Yep.
And we can talk about light pollution and light implementation and all that crazy shit in a different video.
Some other time.
Yeah, but as far as flash is concerned, from the AR, it's no real big deal that I see anyway. However, the AKs tend to be way worse.
Yes.
Particularly, not so much the 5.45 guns, but definitely the 30 caliber guns. And the only reason why I bring up the 5.45 guns in the flash department is that a lot of times flash suppressors for AKs are fucking terrible.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they kind of work, but not all the way.
Yeah, like there's a 4-piece flash hider that is sold on a lot of different AK sites and stuff like that, and it looks cool. Yeah, it looks cool and all that stuff, and it looks great, especially on like a short-barreled rifle. You feel all Spetsnazi and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the big problem with most flash suppressors is that, for the AK, is that they tend to be lower pressure guns, right?
Yes.
And in a short-barreled configuration, like the ammunition was designed for the longer barreled rifles, right? Same thing for the AR and stuff. Where the difference comes into play here, and this is what I see, and correct me if you've seen something different.
Okay.
Because you have a ammunition that was rated for a longer barrel, if you have an inadequate flash suppressor up top that collects sunburnt powder, because that's a thing with short barrel rifles,
Yes.
period.
Yeah, in the eyes.
Yeah, if it's inadequate, in that it doesn't vent out that stuff as often as it can, what that happens is that unburnt powder starts to stack up, and then it ignites after like 4 or 5 rounds into a huge fireball, and that kind of defeats the purpose because you have massive signature to the point where it's like a big old fireball. That does affect your vision.
Yes.
It's not like a break on an AR, like again a Surefire dual port or a Lantac or whatever, where it fans it out to the sides for the most part, right? These tend to be terrible.
Yes.
As far as the selection for flash suppressor and all that. So let's go into yours a little bit.
This one is the Manticore Arms 3-prong flash hider. So I was on a quest as we're speaking to figure this out. I think, okay, I already built it, I got all this money into it, but I can't shoot it at night. It's uncomfortable. Even in the daytime, I would have vision issues, crazy as that may sound. So I got the cheaper $20-$25 booster that sometimes comes with these if you get them used.
Dude, it was awesome. It sounded like it was firing a 12 gauge.
Yeah, it was cool.
It boomed.
It did help with the concussion on my end versus running without a device, but it just wasn't right. So I continued, played around with that 4-piece Bulgarian style, whatever. I didn't like the idea of it because unburnt powder, it gets saved up. It was very heavy. It just kind of ruined it for me. I was still on the quest, we'll say. So I did a bunch of research, and Manticore Arms came out with this, and everybody was saying it was the so-called bee's knees. And I looked at a lot of videos, comparison, whatever, because if you're going to do research, do it all the way. All the way. And so I bit I got it, and I got the little detank kit that you need for it or whatever. I mean, I already had that. It's like 50, maybe 60 bucks, I don't recall. And it's been a whole different rifle. I can shoot this at night. No flash. So as most people would say, oh, with the short AK, 30 caliber especially, I want a break, so it's a little more tame. I'm saying I personally don't want the flash. I can handle how violent this is towards me.
See, the cool thing about this too, this is more on the comfortability spectrum, and I personally really enjoy this, mostly because I have tinnitus. A lot of the 3-pronged flash suppressors have like this really, really annoying tuning fork sound that lasts forever after you shoot it. The only time that I really notice it is in the moment. Like as I'm shooting it, I notice the tuning fork sound, and then it just goes away.
Yeah.
And then that's probably attributed to the really thick prongs on it also. And God, AR 3-prongs are the worst in that regard because, good Lord, it just lasts forever. And granted, grand scheme of things, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't at all. Yeah. But at the same time, it's one of those deals where what annoys you makes you not use it. Really.
Or if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, and it works in its own right. In that, okay, the tuning fork sound is there, but it's only there for a couple of seconds and then it goes away.
Is that worth having your flash suppressed?
Yeah, and
of
the
course.
way that I weigh it, yes, for sure. Even if it was a super annoying one, on that particular rifle especially, yes, it is. However, we're getting into AK parts land a little bit, but I do want to talk about this because this will kind of screw somebody up. And that's this QD mount on the stock a little bit. We'll just take a couple of seconds to talk about it. I am not a huge fan of this because if you attach it on your side, it's punching you in the face.
Right. Just found that out.
Yeah.
So if you excuse me for a sec. So I go to shoulder and it's in my chin. So you'd say just move it to the other side. Well, why wouldn't you? So say if it's slung around your neck and whatnot and you come up, guess what? It's still in your face.
Yep.
So that's not going to work for me.
Yeah, I mean,
found that out.
It's kind of a pain in the ass, really. I mean, I shot the rifle. I'm not aware if it was slung up or not, but the first thing I did was I just left it on his side and I shot it like that because, look, I've been punched in the face by underfolder AKs, short underfolder AKs.
Yeah.
I've been punched in the face by paracord wrap triangle stocks and all kinds of and all kinds of crap like that. And it's one of those deals where it's like the stock itself is actually really comfortable. Just be cognizant of the QD thing. If it were me, I would probably just get a traditional sling, wrap it up, be done with it. Like wrap it up on the back end of it because it's nice and skeletonized back here.
Yeah.
Now we just get like a traditional sling, wrap it up, and call it good.
Yeah. Probably what I'll do.
So I mean, it's just little things to consider. And the only reason why it's brought up here is because whatever happens as far as like recoil and stuff, I'm sure if that was on a full-size rifle, I wouldn't actually care. But you will have to deal with a recoil increase, and on the 30 caliber guns, it's enough to be really annoying.
Okay? Very annoying.
On the 10.5 and the 12-inch ARs, it's not. It's just a little more of a.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's not a big deal.
It's a training thing.
Yeah, but AK actions are generally fairly violent, and on the short guns, they're violent.
Yes.
So next thing to be aware of, and this is more in the parts replacing category, for lack of a better term that I can't think of right now, you will generate the following: higher cyclic rates and heat. Okay, particularly, yet again, on the AK side of the house. You can tell that we wrapped this guy up. And the reason why I wrapped it up was that I started getting a little nuts with shooting it quick, and that was before it was hot. So as we were starting to grip into here, the first time we got into it after I shot it a bunch, it was just starting to burn them up, and we didn't have gloves today. So, that's what it is. But you will start to generate more heat. You will start to generate higher cyclic rates. Generally speaking, right, you're going to have to mess with recoil springs a little bit. Do some research on greater weight recoil springs. Depending on the weight bolt and carrier group that you have, it may call for heavier weight recoil springs just to slow it down enough to where your bolt is not cycling faster than the magazine can shove ammunition into where it needs to be. So I would pay attention to that. But more important than that is on a gun like this, I will get away with pretty close to tens of thousands of rounds as far as cycles, more than a 10.5-inch barreled rifle, mostly because it's just not beating it to death.
Right.
So I would pay attention, and if you're used to cycling out parts on a schedule as far as number of rounds fired, you might want to cut that off by a few thousand rounds early so that you're not in a broken gun earlier than you expect. And I would check things like bolt faces for cracks and stuff like that. So I would definitely recommend just kind of paying attention to your stuff a little bit more, especially if you're used to longer rifles, like most people are, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people mess around with short-barreled guns as often.
And also, if you start developing problems with a shorter rifle, really look into them. Not, the gun's dirty, or it's me, I'm tired, like, we just found out a problem that I have with this brand new build that we have to try to figure out. That somebody, the last time I brought it out, told me, and just let it go because it's brand new. So you really got to pay attention to how finicky they are.
I mean, and generally speaking, also, I tend to pull like a Mercedes-Benz in all honesty, to where like if a part starts going wrong, I tend to not replace the individual part. I tend to replace the entire assembly. Unless it's something like an extractor spring, but even still, I replace the entire assembly. Spring, rubber insert, O-ring, whole thing gets ripped out, and the new assembly gets put in, and then it goes back in the gun. Because generally speaking, if one thing starts to wear out, all of it's going to landslide after it if you fix it a part at a time. And it happens more so on short-barreled guns than anything else. So I mean, oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
On the performance side of the house, there are a lot of guys that I know that take short-barreled rifles and make them their main guns because they're just kind of like, well, 300 and in is what the cartridge was designed for and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Totally get it. Totally understand. However, there are a few things that you need to be aware of. 200 and in with like a 10.5-inch barreled rifle or even a 12. All of these, by the way. There are no real problems with muzzle velocity and stuff like that. You can still impact stuff, point of aim, point of impact, according to 0, no big deal, right? You pass that and you go on another football field, and with with the PAP, especially with like a 30 caliber AK, it's almost like I can check my watch and count down how long it's going to take to get there. It's almost cartoony.
Yeah, if I may say something real quick about this. Right after I built this the first time, this had a few iterations. I took your AK specific class, which is amazing, by the way. I learned a lot, and I'm not just saying that.
Stop selling me.
I'm not doing it on purpose. So I brought this in the configuration that it was, and I had my regular primary AK as my backup. And then dropped down, we zeroed, everything was fine, and we would notice how long it would take. There was definitely a time increase to get there.
Yeah.
I remember on, it was day 2 or day 3, cold, after getting our asses kicked out in training land, we had to drop down, go into prone, and hit 2 shots at 300, and there was no warming up, there was no warning.
That was day 3. That was right at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And I'm sitting here freaking out like, oh shit.
Because y'all had confidence and whatnot from the first
that's
day.
what it was, trying to break us down. And I was used to this rifle at that moment in time, so I dropped down. My holdover was much greater. Just another 100 feet, just one more football field, my holdover was actually above the man-sized target. And I hit mid-level, because I was shooting just a red dot.
Yep.
And the time that it took to reach from where we were to the 300, like, we always assumed that I just missed the shot, and then ding! But it wasn't loud. You could definitely tell there was a big difference between that hit and a regular 16-inch barreled AK.
Exactly. And just adding to that, too, I was just, like, because I know that he knows his stuff, and because I can just heckle him on things, shut up. like, don't even try to be subtle right now. Like, you're awesome. But point is that, like, I know he shoots well, so when he performs less than what I know he's capable of, I talk crap to him, because that's just what you do.
Yeah.
Plus, he responds, like a lot of dudes do, to just being berated, So, we would have, I remember this because I made sure to watch him. A dude with a full-length gun, a full-length 30 caliber gun, dropped down. I think it was Sunshine, too, by the way.
Yeah.
He dropped down, and he was using my Vepr at the time. And he blasted off his 2 rounds, got those 2 hits, and I was like, all right, cool. And then he drops down with this, and he fires a shot, and I am in the process of talking crap to him, but before I could start the capital letter on my sentence, it
just like a dud.
It was surrounded a little bit by trees, and that absorbed some of the sound, but not a lot.
Well,
and
then you hear everybody in the background going, whoa.
Wow.
Not saying I'm any good, but just like, okay, if he could do it with this little tiny thing, with all the things against him, physics, I don't know.
Yeah, and it was a little foggy that morning too.
Yeah, I gave everything I had, and I hit, and then I could not miss again. I didn't have that option, because everything was riding on me, and I hit again.
Yeah.
So everybody, hear the
Plus, we
whispering
would
and stuff.
have given him shit for like.
Oh, I'd have got my ass handed to me. So, this is the problem when you swap around with SBRs and regular rifles, whatever, or just rifles in general. I dropped down when it was my turn again with my primary full-size AK.
Yeah.
Ready to go, iron sights, had learned the proper holdovers, and it was crickets.
Yep.
So I went from, I'm the best ever, to, holy crap, I can't do this with a regular-sized rifle.
Because, and what's crazy, too, is that, like, okay, 50-yard zero and stuff like that for the optics, because we do an iron sight day first, and then we do optics. For the optics portion, on the AK, we were like 50 yards, point of aim, point of impact, right? Because there's a different style to zeroing irons, completely different lineup on a body and all that stuff.
Yes.
But with a dot, it was point of aim, point of impact, 50 yards. At 300 with a full-length rifle, you're right about at the scalp area, and he was holding over that.
Quite a bit over.
Quite a bit. and then he goes to a full-length rifle, went back to his normal hold,
Yeah.
and then just sailed it right over him.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is something definitely to consider, because you will have a bunch of muzzle velocity loss, because even on ARs too, man, like with like 193 and MA55 and whatever, okay, like mill grade stuff that's coming out of there hot,
Yeah.
it's not as bad. But if you're shooting like Wolf, dude, it takes all day to get there.
It does.
Feels like
It
so, especially out of like the 10.5s, because you do lose muzzle velocity, and there's a lot of guys where it's like, oh, it's not that much of a muzzle velocity. I'm sorry, it is.
It is.
It is.
But,
I mean, let's say that we're trying to hit a moving target.
right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean that
And
would
at
be
distance.
that would be tremendously difficult at that distance.
Yes.
Never mind hitting like a dome-sized target, because that's what, you know. But we're creeping into military land a little bit. So it's just something to pay attention to, is that you're like, if you're using it as a primary, understand that you will have a muzzle velocity degradation for that. You're going to have to change your data on what your holds are appropriately if you're used to the longer guns, right? So there's that. The next thing is, this is more on a comfort thing, and it's definitely concussion. A lot of people get a little flustered around getting concussed by rifles and stuff
Especially
like
if you're the
that.
guy next to the guy with the SBR
Yeah.
or the crazy break. Yeah, it could mess up, mess you up a little bit.
And I tell you what, like, if there's a rifle, like, let's say that you looking at this is your dome, and I'm getting ready to fire around next to you to where you're a little bit forward and behind me, but still mostly on the side, so you're about here, and I fire this rifle. I noticed that bird cages, even on like regular M4s, they're awful with their concussion.
Yes.
And on a 12.5, it's terrible. On yours, you can feel the concussion behind the gun.
Yes.
And while I'm sitting there filming you, I'm sitting there like, good Lord,
Yeah.
this thing it's concussive. It is. It's more of a comfort thing. Don't get flustered by it.
You can train out of it.
Yeah, it's gonna be there. So just be prepared if you're like looking into it.
Yeah, and on the same note, maybe you only have access to shoot at an indoor range. So think about that.
Yeah, with the booths.
Yeah.
They're sitting there chilling, and you're shooting through the
and
booths.
you're just doing your thing, you're training hard, or it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're there, and that's what's important.
Yep.
But you're pissing everybody else off.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. This is the first time I ran into the M92. Somebody shooting it to piss everybody off. I thought it was awesome. I'm an AK guy, have been for many years. I get one, and that does get in the way, I think.
Yeah, it thuds them a little hard.
It does, and then now you are less likely to want to be there. I'm not saying you care what they think, and you shouldn't. But if the guy standing next to you at your rifle class or whatever, your friend is going prone next to you, he's automatically not going to like you. I'm just going to tell you that. When we do certain drills together, I purposely bring out the SBRs because I'm an asshole, and everybody hates that. So when it does happen to me, I bite my tongue. It's funny.
There were times specifically where I would ask him, because like, I remember this too. This was after that class. It was at Rifle 1. You came back and we were getting ready to do a pairs team thing, because that's as far as our team stuff goes, is pairs, and that's only because gun guys hang around gun people.
Yeah.
Right. So he brings out his full length rifle, and I stopped him. I'm like, go get your shortgun.
I said,
And
you sure?
And he's like, why? And I was like, yeah, he's getting used to this. He's not new, and I want to inoculate him to concussion.
Yeah. That was the one. All right.
Yeah. So and then dude will come back from that and be like. And I'll be like, how'd you like it? He was like, yeah, the drill was friggin' awesome, blah, blah, blah. Josh's rifle sucks. I hate it. And we sit there and giggle about it, but it does help a little bit.
Yeah, so just be aware of that.
Yeah.
The louder your guns are, the more annoying it is to other people. That's take
are
it for what it
facts.
is. Do you care? I don't care. Whatever.
So, I mean, as far summed up, right, there's a bunch of stuff to consider. It's not just...
I got one more thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so... with the AR specific, we have awesome mounting options, everything under the sun you could do. What I found is my original plan, my original build was a 11.5. I wanted the BCM upper, and this was on sale, and it's one of those things, ran out of money. Well, you'll see, and the reason I want to bring this up is because this is all new to me. With my flip-ups, you'll see my front one is way far back here. And you say, oh, the distance from here to here, and you're losing whatever. We can talk about that some other time. But what it was is I'm out of rail space for the things that I require and what I'm doing. Operating the light is probably the most important thing to me, either side. And you see where I'm mounting my switch is where I could reach it. So that meant I had to mount that. So these are other considerations when building. It's like, where's my stuff going to go? And then if you have more stuff than this, whatever it may be,
whatever
where's that going to
yeah,
go?
whatever your mission requirements are, really.
So with a full length setup, say if this had a regular style rail on, you can put accessories.
Yeah, you've got air on it all day.
This part is actually longer than my whole upper here, so you can do whatever you want. It just so happens I'm a smaller person. I've got little tiny, short arms. So an SBR is actually normal in my comfort zone. So as I'm running 16, 18, 20s, whatever, it doesn't matter, they're extremely long for me. So all my accessories are mounted in the same spot. It just so happens I would like to have my front sight in front. Why not? But it didn't work. So really think about that when you choose where you're going to go with your SBR lengthwise.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Like, one of the considerations that I had was not that, but I noticed that even with the extra little bit of length on there and having a regular Mark 18 style rail on here, I noticed, okay, I run out of real estate really, really fast. You guys know that I still train with Nod and stuff like that. So, I mean, realistically speaking, looking at this setup right now, I have a place that I could put my D-ball. Like one.
Right.
And it has to be here. And I have to now change up how my hands go. Like, if I have to, or if I'm going to train with Nod and stuff like that on a gun like this, I have to remove these rail covers, pull this back so that I'm in a more neutral space so I can reach for my light. And I essentially have to change everything up.
Yeah, which is a new gun at that point.
Yeah, it's a completely new feeling rifle. But if we're looking at just a light and a set of irons and stuff, my regular extension is a little bit further forward. So the way that works is, okay, this is just barely inside that comfort zone. Okay, it's just barely inside of that comfort zone, and it just barely works because instead of the switch being right here where I want it to be, I'm having to press with the ball of my thumb now to make it work. And that's okay, but I have to now get the thumb out of my glass. Right. So I have to just kind of pancake it in there. So it's going to be what it's going to be, really.
That's a big deal. I'd say that right there is the biggest deal that I had when trying to build this thing.
Yeah, I mean, because bringing it back into like the home defense realm and stuff, yeah, your optics are there and cool stuff like that, but it is massively important, at least in our opinion, as far as how well you can manipulate the light.
Right.
So it needs to be intuitive, it needs to not change up your grip a whole lot, and it needs to be something that is non-invasive for your specific techniques. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we'll just figure it out from there. But with all that being said, guys, that's all we really have for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful in any way. And if you want, go ahead and throw some comments in the comment section below. Let us know what your experience was with SBRs and stuff. So, all right, we'll pretty much go from there.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, and remember, regular guy's firearm is last defense against tyranny. Be easy. So,
thanks.
You're short as fuck. So a quick note to self. If you're training with me, tread in the shoes.
Yeah.
And a raincoat.
Yeah.
Because that is slippery as hell.
Just a little bit.
We just ran a suicide drill, and both of us about killed ourselves.
Yeah.
You were way worse than I was.
I'm still tired.
And just it was the funniest shit ever. Like, just hopping around, but
sliding.
Yeah. To the fair weather warriors out there, train in the rain. And snow and stuff like that.
This is why right here.
Yep.
Brand new gym shoes, whatever.
My Merrills.
No cares.
So, like, in weather that's crap, you should probably learn your stuff, because right now, like, our guns with stippling and all that cool crap on it, like both our Glocks, it just feels like baby oil's attached to it.
Just straight baby oil.
I have straight up not run my fucking slide to the rear at least a dozen times already.
Yeah.
So, figure it out. Train in different weather.